right, we're ready to get started. Thank you everybody for coming. I am Jeannie from the Bar Association. I'm the director of the Bar Association. And I just have a few thank yous I'd like to throw out there before we start. First of all, I would like to say thank you to LCBA President Leslie Gentili and LCBA Executive Committee member and owner and broker from House to Home Realty Professionals, I hope I'm saying that right, Amy Price. They spent literally, I can't tell you how many hours they spent putting this event on with me and donating all of that time, because that's all volunteer time. Yesterday, I think they were with me 3 hours going over the questions.
It was
so
a pleasant 3 hours.
But it was a fun 3 hours, don't you think? Yeah. And Leslie brought muffins, so it was even better. I'd also like to thank Annie Heidersbach, president of Elyria Catholic, and Matt O'Conowitz, I hope I'm saying that right, Matt, who is the director of the facilities here at Elyria Catholic, for opening up this beautiful brand new performing arts center to us. And I apologize we can't have water, but it is brand new, so they want to keep it that way. I would like to thank Logan Murray, who is our videographer for the night. And thanks to Logan, this event will be posted in about a week or so on our website. So those that could not be with us tonight that wanted to watch this will be able to see it. Also, I want to thank the members of the Bar Association and the members of the public for joining us, and the candidates for being here tonight. So without further ado, Amy, who will be moderating, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. Good night, good night. All right, we got done fast. Good evening, everyone. I've got a lot of information tonight, didn't you? Welcome to the Lorain County Bar Association Judicial Candidate Night. I am excited to be here. I'm excited to host. Thank you to the members that are here to gather more information. Thank you to the candidates that are here to provide additional information. Tonight, we are going to hear from the candidates running for the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas General Division, as well as the 9th District Court of Appeals. We have 1 seat for the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas General Division and 3 seats for the 9th District Court of Appeals. Just a little bit about the format tonight before we get started. Just wanted to let everybody know that we will not be taking questions from the floor today. We solicited questions prior to tonight's event. We reviewed them, consolidated them, edited them somewhat. We had a lot of questions. We don't have a lot of time. So we have a representative sample of those questions, and we will be posing them to the candidates tonight. Oh, excuse me. Each candidate is going to have 9 minutes to address the audience. Their first minute and a half is going to be so that they can introduce themselves, talk about their qualifications, and then the next 7.5 minutes, the remainder of the time, they will be fielding the questions that are posed to them. Just a reminder to everybody, this is not a debate today, so each candidate is basically going to have their questions, and then we will move on to the next candidate. Just so that we can all put a face to the name before we get started, I'm going to do a quick run through of the candidates tonight. So candidates, if you either want to stand up or raise your hand when I call your name, that would be great. For the candidates running for the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas, seat currently held by the Honorable Mark Betlesky. The Republican candidate is Judge Darrell Bellancini. Democrat candidate, Magistrate Melissa Kobasher. Democrat candidate, Magistrate Kim Myers. Democrat candidate, Attorney Zach Simonov. Moving over to the candidates for the 9th District Court of Appeals. First, for the seat currently held by the Honorable Lynn Callahan. Unfortunately, the Republican candidate, Judge Callahan, cannot be here this evening. And the Democrat candidate is Magistrate Amber Crow. The candidates running for the 9th District Court of Appeals, seat currently held by the Honorable Donna Carr, are the Republican candidate, Judge Donna Carr.
Good evening.
And the Democrat candidate, Magistrate Erica Voorhees. And last but not least, the candidate running for the District Court of Appeals, seat currently held by the Honorable Thomas Teodosio, the Republican candidate, Judge Jill Flagg Lanzinger, and the Democratic candidate, Judge Thomas Teodosio.
Good evening.
All right, we're going to jump right into this so that we have time to get through as many questions as we can. I just want to remind the candidates that we are going to strictly adhere to the 9-minute time frame that you each have. There will the first 1.5 minutes again is for your introduction. Jeannie will give you a 30-second warning when you're 30 seconds out from the time being up. Then we will go into the questions. I will ask you those questions. She will then give you another 30-second warning when your time is up for questions. Any questions, candidates? No? All right, then let's jump right in. We are going to first address the candidates running for the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas General Division. There is no incumbent on this ticket. We are going to go through these alphabetically to make this fair as possible. Republican candidate Judge Darrell Bellancini. He's making his way up to the podium. Good evening. Is it working? I want to make sure it's working before we go into your time there.
There you go.
All right. There you
Probably the tallest. Oh, actually, Kim's the tallest.
Are you all
3,
set?
2, 1.
All right. Okay. So Judge Bellancini is ready, and you can go ahead and go.
Well, let me just say that I timed this for 2 minutes as opposed to 1.5, so I'm just going to keep talking, and you can come over here and cut me off. All right. I've been blessed in my legal career with many opportunities to serve in a judicial capacity and to be exposed to good judges that I could use as role models. About a year after being sworn in as an attorney, I was appointed by juvenile judge Henry T. Weber to the position of a juvenile referee, now called a magistrate, and I was a hearing officer in juvenile court for traffic delinquency and unruly cases. A lot of people don't know that because that was quite a while ago. Several years later, I joined my long-term law partner, Jerry Savoy, in a 34-year litigation and jury trial practice in the Court of Common Pleas throughout north central Ohio. I was lead counsel in thousands of lawsuits. I tried over 100 jury trials in the Common Pleas courts. I was exposed to many dozens of Common Pleas judges in Lorain County, Judge Adrian Vetleski, Judge Rigliano, Zaleski, McGough, Janis, Glavis, Quartz, and most of those who sit currently in the General Division. I found some good as role models. I found some not so good. And as a judge, I've tried to adopt practices of the good ones and avoid the mistakes of the not so good ones. As an attorney practicing for the last 34 years, or for 34 years, not the last ones, but I had an opportunity to sit on arbitration panels in hundreds of cases in Lorain County, and as a mediator for over 15 years in the Bar Association's mediation weeks. Both as an arbitrator and a mediator, I had the opportunity to act in a judicial role. And as a municipal judge for the last 17 years, I presided over many dozens of jury trials, thousands of hearings requiring listening to testimony, evaluating witnesses, finding guilt and innocence. And recently in the bar poll, I've been the only candidate who is highly recommended by the attorneys of the Lorain County Bar Association.
Thank you, Judge Bellancini.
To be elected to this general division plea. I hope that I'm worthy of that recommendation. Thank you.
I promise I won't let you guys down.
Okay.
No, you still have, now we're going to field the questions to you.
Okay.
So my first question to you will allow you to piggyback on your introduction. Why are you uniquely qualified to be a Court of Common Pleas judge in the General Division?
Okay. I love being a judge. I love every day going into court, knowing that I have the opportunity to do something good for people, to have a positive effect on people's lives. How many people can say that about their job? I think I have a reputation for being a fair judge, for being someone who is compassionate, someone who has a good temperament, someone who is mature, and someone who follows the law. As I indicated, I'm the only candidate in this election who has actual judicial experience, who is responsible for final outcomes of cases. I've been doing that for the last 17 years. Whether it's deserved or not, the rating that I have from the Bar Association, I think, is a reflection of the service that I've given over the years, both as a judge and as an attorney, and again serving as the magistrate, an arbitrator and a mediator in cases. I've also served as a magistrate, actually, in the Elyria Municipal Court for several years. So that's something I haven't really pointed out in the past. I have role models as judges, and one would be Judge Rigliano, another would be Judge Janis, and another would be Jim Moroni. Those are kind of my top three. Judge Rothbury, you're in there. Judge Rigliano is and has been over his career someone who has what I think is a great temperament for being a judge, both on the bench and off the bench. I had a civil practice where I would have a lot of opportunities in pretrials, primarily, where I would experience the way that he handled a case. And I've tried in my career as a judge in the last 17 years to model that, and that is to be even-keeled, to be quiet. I don't remember him ever talking loud, but being firm. So that combination, I think, is really effective for a judge.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move you along.
Okay.
Okay, so you spoke of your current judgeship, and
Yep.
you are currently at Avon Lake Municipal Court. As you stated, you're well-liked, you're respected there. Why are you seeking one term in the General Division of the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas?
It's kind of the same answer. I love being a judge. I won't be able to continue being the Avon Lake judge as long as I'd like to. I have this opportunity at this time to, in this election, to be selected to serve in a greater population than I have been serving in. Up till now, it's Avon, Avon Lake, and Sheffield Village. If I am elected for this position, I get to serve the entire county, a greater population in cases that are more serious than the ones I'm dealing with. And I think the experience that I have coming into this job allow me to easily transition into the job. It's going to be it's going to be a very difficult job. I'm sure if you talk to any common pleas judge who's had this position for any length of time, it's a difficult job. But it's one that draws a lot of satisfaction. You can do good things for people on a daily basis, whether it's a victim of the crime or whether it's a defendant in criminal cases. And in civil cases, not everybody's happy when they walk away, but you can do good things, again, on a regular basis.
Now, if you are elected by the voters, can you promise the voters, barring any unforeseen circumstances, that you will complete the 6-year term?
I expect to. I think I'm in pretty good shape. I work out regularly. I hope to continue to work out regularly. I eat well. My wife takes care of that. That's my wife right there. So yeah, I fully expect it. I come from a family of 10 kids. We're all in pretty good shape. Although I should point out that my brother, who's younger than I am, who just recently retired as a carpenter, said to me after I told him that I was running for this position, he said, "What the heck are you doing?" He wasn't too thrilled about it because he's experienced a difficult career physically. That doesn't apply to all of us. We get to sit on our butts and think about things. But in any event, yeah, I fully expect to be around for 6 years.
All right, I think we have time for another question. What role, if elected, what role will you take in civil litigation, particularly those considered final pretrials? So during the stages of the trial.
Well, again, going back to Judge Rigliano, he participated in the final pretrials. He was pretty forceful, actually. I was representing people who were sued, typically, and he'd get on the phone sometimes to the adjuster, so I didn't mind that so much. But if that is what it takes to get a case settled, then I'm willing to proceed with that.
And if elected, would you continue to make use of Zoom technology for your criminal docket day, or would you require the defendants to physically appear in the courtroom?
I think Zoom works real well. I was, in the civil cases, I was always a proponent of telephone when Zoom didn't exist, but it was such a waste of time to go to Coward County, drive there find a parking spot, walk to the Justice Center, walk in, and then 5 minutes later, walk out because the magistrate or the staff attorney has handled the case, and I got to make my way back home. So Zoom is perfect for civil cases.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Do you believe that diversity is important to the judicial system? And if so, why?
Diversity of politics is pretty important, and that's what's lacking on the court at the moment. There are how many judges? There are 10 judges in the Common Pleas bench. How many of them are? None of them. Diversity is in that area also, and I think it's pretty important. So I intend, as a Republican, to be successful in this race and at least put one R on the bench in the general divisions.
And thank you for that answer. And what about diversity in regards to minority statuses?
I think it's a shame that we don't have in the offices of the judges people of color, sitting on the bench, people of color. It's something we all have to work on and try to promote. I think by asking people of minority status to try to make a career out of the law and make a career out of the judiciary would be great, and I intend to promote that.
We all know that specialized dockets are becoming more and more popular, and as the Supreme Court pushes that down to us a little more. What are your views on specialized dockets for the Common Pleas Court?
I think they're great. In fact, coming into this, I haven't talked to Judge Jim Maraldi about this, but I know Jim's going to leave the bench in a couple of years, and I intend to, if I'm able to take this position, ask for the opportunity to take over his mental health docket. It's something I've been involved in, and I would like to continue to be involved in.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your answers. They were very thorough, and we are going to now speak with the next candidate for the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas General Division, Democrat Magistrate Melissa Kobasher. Melissa, when you're ready, you can go ahead and, Jeannie, are you ready?
I'm ready.
When you're ready, you can go ahead and begin with your introduction. Don't panic. I will give you that same question about qualifications as your first question from me. So if you don't have enough time.
Well, thanks. I'll rewrite my speech on the fly. Thank you, Amy, for moderating, Jeannie for putting together the event. Leslie, I know you worked very hard on the questions, so thank you. And all of you for coming to learn more about the candidates. And especially thank you to my husband, who has been such a rock and a support system throughout this lengthy process. So for those of you who don't know me, though most of you do, my name is Melissa Kobasher. I am a wife and a mother of 2 small children, but most of you know me as the magistrate for Judge Rothgary. I've been with Judge Rothgary now for over 5 years. Prior to entering into his office, I worked for the Domestic Relations Court as a magistrate, and prior to that, I had a private practice where I practiced in family law and criminal law. So when I decided to become a magistrate, I contemplated what it meant to be a judicial officer, and I think that what's important in this race is we analyze what it is and why we're running for this job. And so I believe a judicial officer needs to be knowledgeable of the law, needs to be fair and impartial, needs to be someone who can communicate clearly, who can be efficient in their work, someone who is unbiased, and someone who is compassionate and empathetic. And so I am running for this position because I believe that I do embody all of those characteristics.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm going to, I'm sorry, Melissa Kobasher, Magistrate Kobasher. I want to be formal here. Just piggybacking off of your qualifications, you've been a lawyer for approximately about 10 and a half years, which is significantly less than the other candidates that you're running against. The citizens and members would like to know what experience you can bring to the Court of Common Pleas General Division.
So, first I'd like to say that I think we oftentimes make a mistake in defining experience as the length of time that someone has done something. And so, although I acknowledge that I certainly don't have the more than 30 or almost 40 years that some of the candidates have, I do have a lot of the relevant, or I believe I have the most relevant experience to serve in this position. So, as I said, I work for Judge Rothgary, and as most of you know, I'm a very active magistrate. I don't just handle one area in our office. I handle almost all areas of our office, aside from handling jury trials as a criminal in a criminal case. So I handle our entire civil docket. Judge Rothgary has given me a lot of confidence and responsibility in his office, and so I handle our cases from the beginning of a case, at a civil case, and I am the person that handles it through the final pretrial. Now, certainly I do that in conjunction with the judge, and we talk frequently about the decisions that are being written or made. But I also have, and am the only candidate up here for my primary that has served as a judicial officer over a jury trial in a civil case. So in that capacity, I'm fully experienced to go forward and handle the civil docket. Now on the criminal side, because that's of the utmost importance, I handle the cases at the beginning of the case. I handle all the arraignments. I do set bonds. I handle our motion practice. I also am involved in the trials. Although I don't sit on the bench, I am the person that assists behind the scenes in handling any motion work or preparing the jury trial instructions. And so I believe that I have the most relevant experience in going forward seeking this position.
Okay, thank you for the answer to that question. And you basically answered one of the next questions that was posed to us in regards to jury trial, presiding over a jury trial. How many jury trials have you presided over in your time with, in your 10 years?
So, presided over, certainly only the one jury trial I've had an opportunity. Civil cases don't typically go to trial, so that's something that's not been something that's been readily available for me to preside over. And certainly, the judge will tell you that's probably his favorite part of the job, so it's not something that I've asked to do, because I do know my position there as a magistrate. However, with the backlog in cases with the pandemic, we had an opportunity to let me make that available for the litigants so that they could get their cases going if we needed to be handling criminal matters at the same time.
Well, thank you. Now, during your time before you joined Judge Rothgary's staff, how many jury trials, civil and criminal, did you try as a lawyer? Or if you don't have a number, then can you talk about the experiences?
I can easily answer that. The answer is 0. So as a criminal defense attorney, I never had a client that wanted to go to trial or that I thought was appropriate to go to trial. So either I was able to achieve a dismissal or I counseled them and gave them their opportunity. So no, none of my criminal clients ever went to trial. However, as in civil litigation, I did family law. That's not a jury trial though, but I did take cases to trial in the domestic relations practice.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to ask you some of the same questions that Judge Bellancini received as well. What do you believe in regards to diversity in the common pleas court and judicial system altogether? Do you believe that it's important, and if so, why?
So I believe that diversity is extremely important. I sit as a board member of the Lorain County Urban League. I sought that out because I noticed that there's a lot of disparities in our community, something that I've recognized sitting on the bench, and I'd like to be someone that likes to make some change and bring forth some advocacy for the underserved populations. I also know that a judge's job is to administer the law fairly and equally, and I believe that it's important that when people are coming before the court, they are provided with the opportunity to appear before people who have different life experiences, whether that be gender, race, socioeconomic status. I don't necessarily agree that politics comes into play when you're a judge, but I understand Judge Bellancini's purpose in mentioning that he was a Republican. So as the only female running for this position and facing a bench that is entirely all white male, I do believe it's important to be considered as a candidate.
Thank you. So we're going to piggyback off of that a little bit. If you're elected, what would your election to the seat how would that impact the lack of diversity in the court system, except for the obvious? You would be the only woman outside of the all-white male.
Well, certainly the female, but I'm white, so I cannot say that I have anything different to add to the
Or
ratio.
how would you address it? How would you address the lack?
Right, so that's one thing that I touched on. So it's a passion of mine to address the disparities in our community. That's why I joined the Lorain County Urban League. That's why part of the reason that I'm running for this position. We know that the majority of people that come before the court are of minority status, and when they come to the court, they don't see anybody that looks like them or anybody that looks different from the other judges that they appear before. And so I believe that it's important that we, as judges, in formulating decisions and discussing cases or how the procedure of the court's going to go forward, that it's important to have that different perspective, and that's what I would add.
Okay, we're going to try to achieve 2 more questions, switching gears a little bit, one on the civil side and then one on the criminal side. What qualifies you to handle complex business cases?
Well, I handle them right now. So certainly in private practice, that's not something that I did do. However, we have many complex business cases that come before us. We have many complex litigation. In one of the cases, this doesn't necessarily apply to business litigation, but I'll give you an example because we get so many different cases that come before the court. For instance, there is an asbestos-related docket that is typically only handled in Cuyahoga County. However, we had an asbestos-related case filed in our court. I handled that case with motions that, when they piled high above me, was able to address those and assist the judge in getting the jury instructions and having over a 3-week trial throughout the pandemic. So I know what it means to not understand a case when it comes before you, but to work diligently and researching and becoming familiar with all the facts of the case. And I think that's what we do as lawyers. We don't always know what's happening before us, but we have the unique ability to research those things and become aware of what it is that we're dealing with so that we can apply the law properly.
Okay, thank you, Magistrate Kobasher. And switching over to the criminal side, what is your overall view on the use of GPS monitoring? And then second part of that, that would also include GPS monitoring versus cash or surety bonds. So your overall view of GPS monitoring and then the use of that versus cash or surety bonds.
So I believe that GPS monitoring is used somewhat frequently now. It's definitely cost prohibitive to some defendants, so I think that you have to certainly review the case and weigh what's before you, but I believe in setting bonds, it's necessary that you're weighing 2 things. How do we protect the public and allow this person their liberties to be free? So in addressing, I would say that I'd be comfortable with setting bonds that include GPS monitoring, but certainly needing to address it based on the circumstances of the case.
Okay, we're still good on time?
15 seconds.
Anything further you'd like to add?
Thank you.
Next candidate for the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas General Division, Democrat Magistrate Kim Myers. Magistrate Myers, whenever you and Jeannie are ready, you can begin with your introduction.
Let me get this adjusted here.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming out. It's a privilege to be here tonight. Thank Elyria Catholic High School. Also thank the Lorain County Bar Association for putting on this event. I enjoy these, and it's nice being here to talk to you, especially the Bar Association members that have made it here tonight. Thanks for coming. I've been doing this 37 years. 11 years, the last 11 has been as a magistrate. Can you folks hear me okay? Okay. I'll get this fixed here. The last 11 as a magistrate, I think I'm just going to hold this. The last 11 as a magistrate working with Judge Mark Betleski. Judge Betleski, of course, is retiring at the end of this year, and I would hope that I would come along and replace him. I can tell you that I have had a lot of experience working in courts all over the state of Ohio. For probably my first 25 years, I've been in front of the court. I've been doing a lot of work litigating cases. The last 11, I've been behind the bench with the court, working with my judge on the bench, handling a variety of things. I'm admitted to Ohio bars, Arizona bars, the United States Supreme Court, The Federal District Court, the U.S. Federal District Court of Appeals, done a lot of litigation, and I think that sets me apart and qualifies me especially to take Judge Bellancini's position. And we can talk more about that based on some of the questions that are coming up. So.
Okay, well, thank you. You started to touch upon this in your introduction about working in other courts in the area or in the state. Other than Lorain County Court of Common Pleas, what other courts have you practiced in since you've become a magistrate?
Since I've become a magistrate, I've practiced in Erie County, Richland County, Cuyahoga County. I think I've done a couple things in National County also.
Okay, and you are a 40-hour week magistrate with Judge Bellancini.
I'm not a full-time magistrate. That's an assumption that everyone has. I'm a part-time magistrate. About half of my time is spent as a magistrate. The other half is as a staff attorney. That's the way I'm registered with the Ohio Disciplinary Council in the state of Ohio. So that enables me to do some things outside of our court in other jurisdictions.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Magistrate Myers, how many cases, fielding questions that have come from the public and the members, how many cases have you filed in the General Division of the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas where you've represented a party while you were employed at that court as a magistrate?
Employed as a magistrate or prior to that, ma'am?
During your time as a magistrate.
Really, I think there's only been a handful, and that's when I was finishing up making the transition from private practice to becoming a magistrate and a staff attorney with the Court of Common Pleas.
Okay, moving on to a different topic, Magistrate Myers. How would you manage your docket if you were elected to adhere to the Ohio Supreme Court guidelines? What things would you do in place to adhere to those timing guidelines?
Well, every docket is different. All the judges run their dockets differently. I've worked with my judge for 11 years now and seen how he does it. And I think the other judges in the general division, the other 5 judges, they all handle their dockets differently. I think probably the most important thing is to be on top of your cases when they come in. Grab hold of them, try to work them, get them through the discovery process as quickly as you can. Get a trial date, get a case management schedule set for them. It's very important, but every case is different. We just had a case we finished up that was a 4.5-week trial on a building case, a construction case. That case has been around since 2017, but came to us from Portage County. 2 of the judges in the Lorain County General Division passed on it and ended up with Judge Bellancini. We got the case ready for trial. The pandemic kicked it a couple times. We couldn't do anything about it, but we finally got it there. It was going to be a 2-week trial, lasted 4.5 weeks. Very time sensitive. The files were probably 4 or 5 feet deep if you stacked them together. So, those cases, they have a life of their own. We have class actions. We have a lot of technical med-mal cases and wrongful death cases, and you try to get those on the quickest schedule you can and adhere to it. But sometimes you can't adhere to the rules of superintendents because of experts that are on both coasts, one in California, one in New York, one coming out of Texas. Very hard to schedule some of those cases, but most of the cases, I think you get them on a good case management schedule. You work them through, and you'll be able to keep a nice docket. But again, I would just say every judge is different.
Is there, or are there any changes that you would make if you were elected versus what you're currently doing without negatively speaking of Judge Bellancini?
Yeah. Well,
Just any changes that you would like to make when you're the boss?
Right. I would like to make sure that we know exactly where every case is on a monthly basis. Go through that list, go through the docket, make sure that those cases are moving. If there are special circumstances, we'd be aware of what those are. Sometimes those cases have to be stayed. Sometimes we get cases that get filed in bankruptcy court. They put a wrench in all of our work. A lot of cases that get filed in the Court of Appeals. I had a case, an airplane case, a model airplane case with an 8-foot wingspan and a 3-foot propeller on it. The guy was hit from behind and bad serious injuries to his back, his buttocks, and almost took his leg off. And that was a case that took us 4 years to go through, and we went to the Court of Appeals twice. We won that in the Court of Appeals, and that gentleman got a 6-figure settlement in the case. So, what I'm saying is there are exceptions, and I would realize those exceptions just like the judge I work for realizes, but I would work very hard to keep my docket moving without sacrificing the needs that clients need, particularly not clients, but the litigants. the pro se litigants that come in. We have a lot of those, and they need special attention. We try to give that to them, but you need to be very sensitive to that. I like to treat people the way I like to be treated. Be on time, get your work done, be professional. That's what I would do with my docket.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move over to some more of the generalized questions that the others have received, but you're going to get a new one because we have a few left that I haven't hit yet. How involved have you been with the Democratic Party, and how has your involvement furthered the ideals of your party?
Well, I can tell you I've been working with the firm for the Democratic Party since probably 1986. So I replaced Bill McRae when he retired. I can't tell you when I first registered as a Democrat or what the voting, what the records show in the Lorain County Board of Elections, but I know it's been a long time. I know I've worked with Bill, with Ray Muzilla, who worked with Don Pleas, with Tom Smith, who was the county chair, who was the chair of the Board of Elections, chair of the city of Elyria. Attended more fundraisers than probably people in this room has attended, with all kinds of people on the federal level, the state level. Very little on the county level, most on the higher levels, with government officials coming through, congressmen, congresswomen, people running for the president, all those kinds of things. So, been active in it for a long time. I couldn't tell you, we'd have to look at the Board of Elections and they could tell you, but it's been a long time.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you the same type of questions in regards to your personal involvement in the civil pretrials. You touched on this a little bit in your introduction, but if elected, what role do you see taking in your civil cases from beginning through final pretrial?
Probably a real good working relationship with my staff attorney and magistrate, whether that be the same person or two different people. Just making sure that the cases are moving. If there are special circumstances, talking to them about what those might be, discovery issues, what those might be, if there are service issues, issues with experts. That's a big problem in a lot of the civil cases we have, whether it's business, accident, injury, malpractice, construction cases, very expert sensitive today. So we would want to make sure we get those experts into the mix of things as far as scheduling as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take that word experts and spin it a little bit and ask you about specialized dockets. What are your views on specialized dockets for the Common Pleas Court?
I think they've served us well. I think some of the things that both Jim Maraldi and John Maraldi have done, what Judge Walther has done, have served us very well. I'd like to see us take that a little bit further. One of the things I had in mind was actually creating 6 to 8 groups of people looking at teachers, nurses, healthcare professionals, social workers, people from the clergy, myself, taking a half a day every week, how we'd have to adjust our schedule, going out to the schools and getting 6 or 8 of these groups, and getting to the kids and getting to the schools before these people get to us and they're in bad circumstances. Because when we see them, everything has gone wrong. And we would like to try to help curb that and do what we can from the legal perspective when the kids are younger, when they're in elementary school, when they're adolescents in junior high school, start talking to them and be there and really hit that hard. I have a wife who's a retired special needs teacher. We've talked a lot about it, what's going on in school. I have a daughter who's a doctor, and I have a lot of friends that are in social work. They see there's a real need for that, and I would like to expand that. But the ones we currently have, I think they're serving us well, and we should continue with them and maybe try to even expand them more.
Okay, thank you. Let's address the diversity question. Do you believe it's important in the judicial system, and why? And you have 30 seconds.
Yes, absolutely. I think it is. Look at the country we have today. The country is diverse. The litigants we have that come before us are diverse. Unfortunately, we have a lot of diversity in our staff in our court. I think it's needed. I think it's a better way to communicate with the litigants that come before the court, better way for the court to work if we have diversity. So I think it's very important.
Okay, anything further you'd like to let the members know before?
I would just say thank you very much, and please consider voting for me on May 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Watch this mic, whoever's next.
Maybe we should switch sides. And our final candidate running for the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas, General Division, Democrat candidate Attorney Zach Simonov. Zach, when you're all adjusted, give Jeannie the nod, and you'll have your 1.5 minutes to introduce yourself. Or I'm sorry, Attorney Simonov. I'm being so casual.
Yeah, you can call me Zach. Okay, I'm ready. Hello, I'm Zach Simonov, and I'm running to be the next court judge at the Court of Common Pleas to replace Judge Bellancini. I want to thank the Bar Association for inviting me. Since we only have a minute and a half, there are certain things that you need to know about me, and then hopefully we'll get to questions. One, I'm a veteran, okay? I took an oath to serve this country, including up to my life. Secondly, I'm also the only person that's currently practicing law amongst the entire group of people that are running for judge in this county. I still meet with people, I still deal with their needs, and I still appear in front of judges. I see how judges treat them. I also, during the financial crisis in 2008, saved nearly 100 families' homes defending foreclosures. And during the during the pandemic, I put together an eviction avoidance program that has provided assistance to at least 600 families to get them eviction, rental assistance, and moving assistance. I am active in this community, saving people's homes and keeping them there. And I believe in an independent judiciary. I believe that we cannot be affected by, thank you, we cannot be affected by our own personal bias or by public pressure. And I would ask for your vote. And thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Simonov. I will end with the question that I've been ending with, if you would like to address anything further.
Sure.
You brought up that you are in fact a veteran, so I'm going to ask back-to-back questions. What branch of the military did you serve?
I was in the Army National Guard, and I served from 1988 to 2000.
Oh, 1980. And then through that service, let me rephrase my question. How does being in the Army National Guard in a non-legal position, I'm assuming you were in a non-legal position, such as a JAG officer, qualify you to be a judge?
I'm proud to say that I did serve in a non-legal position. I was a indirect fire infantryman, mortars, and I worked in 81 millimeter mortars and then 120 millimeter mortars, so I did not sit behind a desk. Secondly, we have nearly 3 million people that served in Afghanistan and Iraq that have come back, that have been damaged by the war, that have substance abuse problems, psychological problems, that are becoming court involved. And therefore, we need a judge on the bench that actually has some idea what these people that are appearing in front of them went through. I've been to basic training. I've been on a tracked vehicle. I've walked 15 miles with a 100-pound rock. And we need someone that can do that. There are 17 judges in this county between common pleas and municipal, and there's only one veteran that's currently on the bench, and that's a domestic relations judge. If I'm elected, I will double that number, and I will actually deal with people that are coming in front of the court with those problems. I also am proud to say I serve on the Veterans Treatment Court. I'm a founding member of the Veterans Treatment Court, and I've been involved in that court, as I said, since its inception. Thank you.
You segued into a question that I wanted to touch on with you. So it sounds like you have. Why don't you tell us your views on the specialized dockets, not just the Veterans Court, and common pleas?
I'm a member of the National Association of Drug Court Professionals, and as such, I am a very strong proponent of specialized dockets. I believe that specialized dockets prevent recidivism. People that don't go through one of the specialized dockets have a almost 90% violation rate on general probation, whereas in the Veterans Treatment Court, which is what I have experience with, over 60% of the people that have been graduated from our program have not reoffended, which is important. One of the things that we haven't had in this county is a carrot along with the stick. The specialized dockets here generally have been post-plea, so they've either been intervention in lieu or a almost veterans treatment probation, and that's changing with Prosecutor Tomlinson. So we'll be able to have a carrot to promote people, our veterans and people in the other specialized dockets, to work to get their cases expunged. Because we don't need more felons, we need more people that have received treatment and can lead productive lives. Thank you.
Thank you. You touched on this, that you were still practicing attorney. Unlike the other three candidates, however, you do not have judicial experience. Given that the others all have some type of judicial experience, whether it be in a magistrate or as a judge, why should the members or the public vote for you?
Well, for one, I believe that my practice as an attorney makes me uniquely qualified to take this position. The most recent person that had practiced and actually represented someone is at least 5 years ago. I still stand with people in front of judges. I still am there when they're being sentenced for matters. I'm still fielding calls from people whose houses are in foreclosure, because we're getting more foreclosures filed nowadays. I'm still with people that have questions about their will. And we need that experience to be taken to the court. I don't sit on one of the floors in the Justice Center writing decisions. And the rules require, when I submit a motion for summary judgment, I'm required to go attach a proposed entry. I submit proposed jury instructions if necessary in a criminal case. So I'm doing a lot of the functions to assist the judicial officers anyway. So there really is no, so do you want someone that actually is currently having contact with people and currently empathizes with people and has that compassion? Thank you.
Still gonna try? Okay. Moving over to the more generalized questions, and you do get a new one too. Why do you want to be judge?
Because in my 23 years as practicing law, I've been in front of a lot of judges. I've been all over the state. I've been in front of every judge in this county with the exception of Judge Swensky and Judge Glass. And I know what makes a good judge. And on top of that, I see how a judge's decision absolutely affects my clients. And I know how it does because I see it every day. And I believe that I could go on to assist the most amount of people by being a judge, by being the compassionate, empathetic judge that I can be. Thank you.
Thank you. If elected, what would you do to address the lack of diversity in the court system?
Well, first, we are woefully underrepresented of minorities on the bench. There's no African Americans on the bench. There are no Hispanics on the bench. There are no people of Hispanic descent on the bench. There are also no Jews on the bench. I would point out, I'm a Jew, and out of all the people running for this, they're Catholics. And of the judges that are currently there, I believe 4 of them are Catholics and the other 2 are Christians. So I bring the experience of a minority to the bench with me. Secondly, I'm also a veteran. There's no veterans on the bench. That's also a diversity issue. So I bring 2 underrepresented portions there. And I would personally, and I pledged this, to go around to schools, to talk to people, to children in high school and in Lorain Community College, to encourage people to take up a career in the law so that we can get more minorities, and to encourage them to come back to go talk to Cleveland Marshall College of Law and the other law schools, to encourage lawyers to come back and serve this community so we have more minority lawyers in this community. Therefore, more of them will be running for judge, and we will have a diverse bench at that point. And that's not happening. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to switch gears a little bit and go to the Zoom question. Would you continue to use Zoom technology, particularly for the criminal docket, if you were elected, or would you require defendants to be physically present in your courtroom?
I would use the Zoom docket, and I would encourage it as much as possible. We don't know which variants are going around. The current one is highly contagious, forcing deputies and in prisoners to be in a closed space and transport them to the court. Putting them in holding cells, I think, puts everybody at risk. So, at minimum, for the prisoners, I would use the Zoom docket. Secondly, if you've ever been there on criminal day, it's just a whole mass of people sitting out in the hallways, some with masks, some without. Even with a mask mandate, people aren't wearing masks. So, and there's no mask mandate anymore. So I think the more people we could do with Zoom, have on Zoom, and the more SOPs, standard operating procedures, that we can have across the board handling virtual conferencing technology, the better off we will be. Thank you.
Thank you. And is there anything further you'd like the members to hear from you in your last 20 seconds or so?
Just I'd like to go thank the Lorain County Bar Association for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our candidates for the Lorain County Court of Common Pleas General Division. We are now going to move to the candidates for the 9th District Court of Appeals. We are going to divide, in order to be fair, we're going to divide them by the seat that they're running for and then go in alphabetical order just like I introduced them. So we are going to start with the candidates running for the 9th District Court of Appeals seat currently held by the Honorable Lynn Callahan. Lynn Callahan is not present today. Republican candidate, Judge Lynn Callahan is not present today. So we are now going to hear from Democrat candidate Magistrate Amber Crow.
You know, I see a light and a stage and a microphone and I want to sing. Did anybody else get the email that says no singing?
We got the no water.
All right.
So whenever you're ready, give Jeannie the nod and we'll start your minute and a half for your introduction.
Thank you. I want to thank the Lorain County Bar Association for having me, for everybody here. I've got 2 words: public service. Folks, judges are for the people. The courts are for the people. That's why I'm running. I'm currently a magistrate for the Summit County Juvenile Court under the Honorable Judge Linda Tucci Teodosio. I've been a magistrate there for about 7 months. And prior to that, I was a magistrate at the Akron Municipal Court. I have a plethora of experience related to public service that will serve the Ohio 9th District Court of Appeals well. I worked throughout law school, helping to design programming for the Summit County Juvenile Court to prevent truancy issues. Because what we learn is that truancy is the first big red flag we see for children who enter our justice system. Right out of law school, I was fortunate enough to become an assistant county prosecutor with Sherry Bevan Walsh, where I prosecuted cases of child abuse, neglect, and dependency, and then criminal felonies. After the prosecutor's office, I did decide to go into private practice, where I did criminal defense and a lot of family law. My favorite experience has been my guardian ad litem work with my specialized docket called Restore Court, which helps victims of human trafficking or those who have been identified as high risk for human trafficking. I think you're going to hear tonight that I have a dedication to public service, and I'm here because I want our judges to be involved in our community, and I want accountability for our judiciary. Thank you.
Thank you. What ideas do you have to help the 9th District Court of Appeals run more efficiently? If you were elected, what would you do, or what would you try to implement?
So one of the things I would work to do is I would like to work with the current judges on the appellate court to see if we could streamline some of the cases. I think there's a lot of what I've seen delay in cases, and that has a real impact on people who are waiting for these decisions. One of the things that I've learned from my practice as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, as a guardian ad litem, is that there are real people behind these case numbers. You know, sometimes there are delays in cases that can be helped, and some that cannot be helped, obviously. Where it can be helped is where I would like to work with my fellow judges, if elected, and streamline some of the processes. Specifically I would like to focus on some of our juvenile court issues. What I have seen is a permanent custody case, which is it's the death penalty of parental rights. There's a permanent custody case, a parent's parental rights are terminated. There's an appeal that could last the process more than a year. It's reversed, and appropriately so. But after that reversal, it goes back and delays permanency for the child. So I would really like to work together as a team to try to figure out what we could do to streamline some of those cases.
Speaking of time frames, then what do you deem a reasonable time to issue an opinion after oral arguments?
You know, it's hard to put a time frame on that because there are certain cases that involve very complex issues where you're going to have to look into novel issues of law, you're going to have to research, you're going to have to conference with your fellow judges. I don't think it's unreasonable. Like I said, it's difficult to put a time frame on. I don't think it's unreasonable to want an opinion out as soon as possible. In my current position, I don't go longer than 7 days. Judge Teodosio requests that we get those opinions out. I have never missed a 7-day deadline. and I don't intend to, and I vow that if I am elected, I will work very, very, very diligently to get those opinions expeditiously out.
Thank you. You spoke of permanent custody, so let's segue into the domestic relations family law question I have here. What is the full extent of your experience in domestic relations family law?
The gamut. I was a prosecutor at the Summit County Juvenile Court, where I prosecuted cases on behalf of Summit County Children's Services, dealing with some of the worst cases of abuse, neglect, and dependency, the worst of the worst folks. I did that for about 15 to 16 months before receiving my promotion to the criminal felony division. I went into private practice and immediately began representing parents in parental defense cases. I've represented folks in domestic relations court, doing dissolutions, legal custody. I've done guardian ad litem work, where I've been the voice of the children in the courtroom. I hold myself out to be, and so does the legal community, especially in Summit County, to being one of the leading knowledge points of contact for questions on domestic relations and specifically juvenile law. That has been almost exclusively my practice for the last, including being a magistrate for the last 5.5 years.
So then let's move to civil litigation. What's the full extent of your experience in civil litigation?
Well, that is civil litigation. You know, juvenile court, domestic relations court, that is all civil litigation. So again, 5.5 years, if not longer. I also was an Akron Municipal Court magistrate. I presided over the civil court docket, so that included pretrials, conferences, attorney conferences, bench trials. I handled the motions for summary judgment, any pretrial motions. Judge Nicole Walker through the Akron Municipal Court was very instrumental in helping me lay the foundation for my magisterial work when it comes to civil law. So not only did I have the opportunity to practice in various courts, including domestic relations, juvenile, and probate courts, I also had the opportunity to preside over civil matters.
Thank you. Do you believe or do you think there's a need to attract more attorneys to accept court-appointed criminal appeals? And if so, how do you believe that can be done?
I do. I do believe that there is a need to broaden the appointment list for all actual litigation. I would like to work with the law schools and the bar associations to try to identify ways where we can not only capture new attorneys coming in, but to also make sure that those attorneys are well qualified to handle those appointments. Appellate work, criminal work, whatever court you're in, you need to make sure that you are well versed in that area. It's very dangerous to have somebody in a court who doesn't know what they're doing, right? I certainly wouldn't want to be represented by somebody who's never set foot in that court. So I think one thing that would be a good idea would be to encourage shadowing of attorneys for the attorneys who are more experienced in those areas, and even try to promote some sort of payment for them as well in order to encourage, I guess I would say, that engagement. There aren't new attorneys coming out that are going into private practice. We've seen that in the municipal courts, we've seen that in the juvenile courts and the common pleas courts. The court-appointed list is very small, so I would like to work with the bar associations, and I would like to work with our local law schools to help develop a program where we can bolster that engagement.
Okay, thank you. A question more geared towards us here in Lorain County. What is your involvement in the past or present with the Lorain County Bar Association?
I'm a new member of the Lorain County Bar Association, so thank you all for having me. I do like to stay active in my communities, which include my bar associations. That's the Akron Bar Association, the Ohio Bar Association. So I am happy to be a new member of Lorain County's Bar Association. I am active in Lorain in terms of my nonprofit volunteering. I volunteer with an organization known as Hope Meadows with locations in 7 and Lorain counties. They are dedicated to providing equine therapy for mental health and victims of human trafficking. So I guarantee Lorain County that I will maintain my involvement here.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie, we're doing good? Okay, great. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the court then. Where is that question I had for you? The Court of Appeals is currently hearing oral arguments by video. If you are elected, do you plan to keep that procedure in place, or do you plan to revert back to in-person arguments?
I think providing counsel the option is something that I would like to keep. I believe it is important. One thing I've seen with the Zoom and the video conferencing is, thank goodness for this technology during the pandemic, right? People have all sorts of circumstances. Maybe they're caring for an elderly individual. Maybe they are, immune compromised. So I think providing counsel and the parties the opportunity to submit in a timely fashion so the court can certainly be aware of what to anticipate, whether that be an oral argument in person or an oral argument via Zoom, I think that the option is important. I've had the opportunity to observe the appellate arguments both in person as well as via video, and they're both equally as effective.
Okay, thank you. And in your view, what is the biggest issue currently facing the 9th District Court of Appeals? And how do you plan to address that issue?
The biggest issue is people don't know what the 9th District Court of Appeals is or what they do. I have met, first of all, let me say, I've been so fortunate to meet people I would not have otherwise met along this campaign trail. I have met so many people who have asked me, and I get excited about answering, what the 9th District Court of Appeals is. My idea for how to change that is exactly what I said, reminding people that the judiciary belongs to the people. We are public servants. I want to increase the engagement and the visibility of the judges within the community.
Okay, thank you. Why, to you, is diversity important to the judicial system?
Well, let me first off start by saying that I myself am a first-generation attorney. I'm also a status 50% tribal Native American member. My tribe is the Ojibwe First Nation out of Alderville, Toronto, Canada. And I believe that diversity, the bench needs to reflect the people we serve. It's hard for folks to understand what is before them if they've only seen what they know, if that makes sense. So I come from a very diverse family. My mom was a single mom, and bless her heart, she's here supporting me tonight. She was a single mom, has worked very, very hard in the chemical industry and worked her way up in what would routinely be a man's profession. My sister is also here, my fiance. My sister is a union member and uncle union members. My grandpa retired from a union. I think diversity in terms of race and background, gender, ethnicity, everything helps you broaden how you look at a case that comes before you. Of course, as a judicial member, you're going to look and analyze the case in terms of the law. But how you treat people with that fairness, that respect, and that dignity, that is what is brought by your personal background.
Thank you, Magistrate Crowe.
Thank you.
And that concludes your time with the podium. We are going to move now to the candidates running for the 9th District Court of Appeals seat, currently held by the Honorable Donna Carr. The Republican candidate, Judge Donna Carr. You can make your way to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm bringing my phone with me. Probably don't even need this, but I'm bringing my phone with me because I keep notes on it, so don't think I'm trying to make a call or text somebody during my presentation to you. I'm Judge Donna Carr. I've been your Lorain County Court of Appeals judge for the past 24 years, and I know what you're all thinking. I probably was elected when I was 16, right? Well, that's not true, but I was pretty young. I was very blessed to be able to start my career as a judge early. I started out as a municipal court judge and then was able to move on to the 9th District Court of Appeals. I started out in the county prosecutor's office as a law clerk and actually was a legal intern that was arguing in front of the 9th District Court of Appeals before I was even a graduate from law school. Wonderful experience. I thought I would never do anything else other than appellate work. But there wasn't the openings in the county prosecutor's office, so I had to go on to do civil cases, criminal cases, whatever else came up. And you know what I learned? I learned that there are a lot of other titles in the Ohio Revised Code than Title 29. Now, that's a joke for the attorneys here. So anyway, I've had a lot of experience. I was thinking whenever the Supreme Court nominee was just, the hearings on Justice, well, soon to be Justice Brown Jackson, that she was talking about 600 cases, 600 decisions. I have rendered about 7,500 opinions for the 9th District Court of Appeals, not to mention cases that I've sat on with the Ohio Supreme Court, where I've sat as a visiting judge in other districts throughout the state of Ohio. I love what I do. I'd like to keep doing it for a long time.
Thank you, Judge Carr. As you've been on the 9th District Court of Appeal for, I believe you said 24 years, correct?
24 years.
What is the biggest issue you see facing the 9th District Court of Appeals currently, and how would you like to address it?
Well, I do agree with Magistrate Crowe that a lot of people that a lot of people don't know what the Court of Appeals does, and they don't know the importance of the middle level line of appellate courts. Everybody thinks about the Supreme Court of Ohio, and they don't necessarily think about the Court of Appeals. And the Court of Appeals, actually, we handle every case that comes in front of us. And there's only like 3% of the cases that actually go to the Ohio Supreme Court. So for most intents and purposes, we are the court of last resort. But I would add to that that the 9th District Court of Appeals has always been a very busy court. Now, what's going on with COVID, this is all, in flux, okay? Because we've had to do things differently. Trial courts haven't been open, so we haven't had as many cases as we would ordinarily have. But still, in looking at statistics, we're still the second highest court in the state of Ohio per judge, cases per judge. So we've got a lot of work to do, and just keeping that up. I think keeping qualified people is something very important on the Court of Appeals, because right now, this election year, 3 judges out of 5 are up for re-election or to keep their seats on the Court of Appeals. I would hate to see a turnover of 3 judges. I think that would, be very, very, it would be very erratic, not beneficial to the court, is what I'm trying to say, to keep everything flowing in the way it should.
Okay, other than the keeping the 3 judges that are currently up, what else would you do to address the issues that you've just expressed?
In regard, well, we were already trying to do those things, but this is what, in the 24 years we've done, I have to tell you, I wish I had plenty of time, different things that we've done over the years. One of the things I'm most proud of is being here in Elyria Catholic. We've sat here, 3 times, I think, at least, as a Court of Appeals, holding our actual courtroom proceedings in the high school here. And we've done it at others. I've been at Admiral King, I've been at Avon Lake, I've been all over. I feel like the Johnny Cash song, I've been everywhere, man. But at any rate, and I was one of the people that actually started that program back 20-some years ago, because we would go into schools and realize that the schools would say to us, we don't have the resources to bring the kids down to you. And so, God rest his soul, Judge Batchelder, who's also Speaker of the House for many years, he and I said, well, why don't we bring the court to you? And then when our court administrator now took over, he decided that he would help us get it even more out in the public by helping the kids more by developing a curriculum so that they actually will go over the cases with us and follow up with the cases. And to be honest with you, it's a lot of fun. I like every student in my district to have a positive experience with the court systems. And you know what? I go into classrooms, we all do. We all go around and make public appearances. We do whatever we can to educate the public in regard to that. But it really starts with the kids as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. In regards to the court-appointed attorneys taking appointments for criminal appeals, do you see that as an issue? And if so, what do you think could be done moving forward?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I'll tell you why. Because in 24 years on the bench, we've never had enough criminal defense attorneys. And I have to tell you, they are critical. They're a backbone of the system, in every county in our district. And I know it's been really hard sometimes in Lorain County. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do with the Court of Appeals is make it as easy as possible in regard to the attorneys. We try to be timely with our court appearances so that they're in and out, not waiting 2 or 3 hours for a case. Because some courts of appeals, they don't give you a specific time. They just say arrive at this time, and then your case may be an hour, 2 hours down the road. So we try to do that. The other thing that I think is very important is what's been happening, that there have been increases in the fees. Because I want to be honest with you, I have felt like I needed to send an apology letter to criminal defense attorneys. She's laughing. To criminal defense attorneys for the fees that I would sign off on this. That's all I could do. That's all we as a court could do. But I think that's really important, and just trying to foster the relationship and try to get them as much money as possible and let them know how important they are, because they are. They're very, very important to our system.
Thank you. What is your view on oral arguments either staying by video or returning to in person?
We're doing hybrid now. I don't know if you all know. We're doing hybrid. We have not returned in person to Lorain, Wayne, and Medina counties. And those are all the Wayne, Lorain, Medina, and Summit are our counties in the 9th District Court of Appeals. We rely on, when we're in the other counties, our principal place, our courtroom, is in Summit County in Akron. And so when we're on the circuit, they say, we're like the old, circuit riders. We go from town to town. And when we're on the circuit, we actually do use the courtrooms of sitting judges. And Judge Walther has been very instrumental in providing his courtroom here in Lorain County. So we have to make sure we're going to be abiding by all the protocol. They're trying to get their situations back and up and running, with, I'm sure there's many, everybody right now has cases that we've got to do. But I guess my point is, I personally have really embraced the Zoom, okay, because of the fact that I feel like more than anything, yes, it is sometimes more convenient for the attorneys, but I think of the clients as well as the public at large. I mean, to be honest with you, at the 9th District Court of Appeals, we've been a forerunner in this for years anyway. I mean, for instance, we were one of the first courts, if not the first court, to actually record our oral arguments and make them available to the public. Because not everybody can come to Summit County, not everybody can come to Lorain. You work, you have jobs, you have responsibilities. You would like to maybe, get a better idea what your court system, your local court system is like, but you just don't necessarily have the opportunity unless you become a litigant in the court system. And nobody wants that. So anything that we can do, and we've been, to be honest with you, we've just been in the forefront with that for a long time. And I think hybrid could be okay. I will tell you, it can get confusing, for the judges as well as the attorneys. They've got to be good. There's got to be good notice and, and participation on everyone's end and make sure everything gets done. But I really like the idea of, like I said, just making it more amenable to the public. I love the idea that the public can view it anytime.
Okay, thank you, Judge Carr. And then after oral arguments, what do you consider a reasonable time, turnaround time for decisions?
The time is necessary to get the case out and the right result. And I know that's not what necessarily people want to hear. Now, quite frankly, I've got a great docket now, okay? There are times that I haven't had a great docket because I've been, a lot of different cases that have been in front of me that have just been very, very difficult. Right now, as a matter of fact, we are getting such an influx of permanent custody cases. Now, those have to be out. I know that the magistrate is talking about that. I'm very proud of our record, very, very proud of our record with juvenile cases, with permanent custody cases. Anyway, so yeah, just that, you have to, once you hear them, you have to have them out in 30 days. And we are right on top of them.
Great, thank you. Anything further, Judge Carr, that you would like the members to know before you leave the podium?
Well, I just want to ask a question if I can, okay?
Sure.
Okay, who's a member of the Bar Association here, the Lorain County Bar Association? Great. How many of you have been in the 9th District Court of Appeals? Okay, more importantly, have you argued in front of me? Well, I know you. You have to understand, Giovanni's a regular. She's a regular. And so anyway, well, I enjoyed being here, and it's always nice to see everyone and be able to interact. So thanks so much to the Lorain County Bar Association, and especially Jeannie and Amy.
Thank you very much. And the Democrat candidate running for the 9th District Court of Appeals, seat currently held by Honorable Donna Carr, is Magistrate Erica Voorhees.
Thank you. Hi, can everyone hear me? I know I'm not necessarily going to be touching this microphone too much. It seems dangerous. All right. My name is Erica Voorhees. I want to thank the Lorain County Bar Association for inviting me today. I am a magistrate at the Summit County Court of Common Pleas General Division at the moment, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief overview of where I've been in the last 17 years that I've been an attorney. I grew up in a small town, a suburb just south of Akron in Summit County, which is where I'm from. I went to high school at, well, the people who live there call it Manchester High School, in the whole town Manchester. It is, I believe, the city of New Franklin right now. And I went to Denison University to get my undergraduate degree. When I came home, I went to the University of Akron School of Law, and then automatically, just as Judge Carr indicated, got into the fray of practicing as soon as I could with an intern certificate during my third year of law school. I had the opportunity to have my first jury trial before I even got my bar results, and then I knew I would be practicing in public defense for the near foreseeable future, which I did until 2016, when I took the magistrate and judicial attorney position with Judge Catherine Michael at the Akron Municipal Court. In 2019, she assumed a seat. She was elected to a seat at the Summit County Court of Common Pleas, and I came with her, and that was in 2019. I have been with her since, serving as her magistrate and her judicial attorney. And I'm glad to elaborate on that experience based on your questions.
Thank you. You're actually segueing right into my next couple questions for you. Just giving us a little more information. What's your full extent of civil litigation, to include domestic relations and family law as well?
Okay, and my experience with civil litigation is primarily been on the side of the bench as a judicial officer and judicial attorney. Over at Akron Municipal Court, of course, we saw a variety of civil matters. I handled the civil docket almost entirely. As Magistrate Kobasher has indicated, Judge Michael is also a judge who puts a lot of confidence in my skills and abilities, and she relies on me to make sure that her civil dockets are moving along and properly handled, and that has been my primary responsibility between the Akron Municipal Court and Summit County Court of Common Pleas. Obviously, a wide array of cases between those two courts, varying in severity, but what's not different is that there are people and corporations and small businesses behind those cases, and they're all treated as individual cases, as they should be.
Thank you. And can you touch on family law at all? Do you have any experience in the family law?
I do. When I started my career at the Stark County Public Defender's Office back in 2005, they kind of have a hierarchy of the way attorneys progress through that office, and I started off in the juvenile court. That was my first introduction to juvenile law, which I continued in Summit County when I returned to the Legal Defender's Office of Summit County. But in Stark County, the juvenile division also included practicing for child support defense and dependency, neglect, abuse cases. So that is what I did in Stark County, which did involve carrying those cases through arguments at the 5th District Court of Appeals, which is where Stark County is.
Thank you. You spoke on sitting in your first jury trial prior to getting your bar results back. How many jury trials have you first chaired as a lawyer? And then we'll go into presided over as a magistrate.
27.
You know exactly that. Now that's sitting first chair?
Yes, they're primarily in Stark County, but all entirely in Stark and Summit counties.
And how many jury trials have you presided over as a magistrate?
None. As Magistrate Kobasher indicated, that is, I don't know if that's a fairly common thing, but that is also Judge Michael's one of her favorite parts of the job, and that is something she's very well experienced in. She handles those matters. I do, however, handle most of the civil bench trials that come through.
And why do you want to be a judge for the 9th District Court of Appeals?
I appreciate the work very deeply, what the 9th District Court of Appeals does. However, the question has been posed, what is the biggest issue that's facing the 9th District Court of Appeals? And that's really what led me to run. Everyone's identified it. Now we need to move on making it a difference. The difference is we can't attract people to be appointed counsel, and people don't know very much about the 9th District Court of Appeals. So how we fix that is by making the 9th District Court of Appeals and its judges more accessible and visible to the public. Again, I'm from Summit County, so my record tends to be in Summit County. However, since I decided that I would seek the judgeship that covered parts of Lorain County, Wayne County, Medina County, I committed myself to learning about the communities in those counties and have been traveling quite a lot to learn about those communities because that's part of understanding what the court has to deal with and the community that comes before the court. So while I really like the ideas of Zoom and being in person and all of these things, what really is going to come down to is what's going to matter about keeping people knowledgeable about the 9th District Court of Appeals. So if that means a hybrid model, that's what it should be. If it means entirely virtual, that's what it should be. And I appreciate the accessibility that it provides to people, especially over the 4 counties that make up the district. And really that's the key, is keeping the court and the judges accessible and visible to the public so people understand what the court's about.
Thank you, Magistrate Voorhees. You knocked out about 6 of my questions there, so you're going to get some new ones.
Okay.
But first, I wanted to ask you one of the questions that's already been heard, and you've touched on it a little bit. But do you believe there's an efficiency issue in the 9th District Court of Appeals? And if so, what ideas do you have to help?
What I want to say is that I think all of the judges who are in practice right now, because as a judicial officer and someone who works inside a court, the challenges that we're all facing during COVID and coming out of COVID are not just unprecedented, they are very challenging to try to keep all aspects in mind. So I am definitely not one to say, here are the problems without a solution. My solution is just, let's respect where we've been, let's move on from some of the issues that have occurred, and again, it seems to me that the way that we're going to keep the 9th District Court of Appeals a vibrant court and have more attraction of attorneys to handle some of the criminal cases that need appointment is to keep the public involved so that they know what the Court of Appeals does, so that they know who their judges are in all 4 counties.
Thank you. And in regards to diversity in on the Court of Appeals level, why is it important to you to see diversity in the Court of Appeals and even in the higher courts, but you're running for Court of Appeals, so for that level, and what would you do to address it?
Well, diversity in all areas of the law is of the utmost importance. As far as how to address it, I say that really bringing experience of working with people of all backgrounds is the best way to do so. I have that with 11 years as the truest definition in my experience as a public defender is a public servant, working with people that you might not have encountered in your personal life, and that really brings your perspective. Of course, judges are all called on to be impartial and fair, no matter what the case is that's presented to them and the parties that are there. Your perspective, however, helps you understand the more global picture of what each individual case is, how much of the facts really sink in with you, so that it's more of an academic, less of an academic exercise, more of a real snapshot of what's happening in that particular case.
Thank you. And what, if any, has been your involvement with the Lorain County Bar Association and Lorain County in general?
My Lorain County Bar Association involvement has been limited to fighting with the website. And I will say that is something, no problem, that's something I need to follow up on. I have attempted to join the Lorain County Bar Association, but yes, and so I have recently found out that I do need to contact the office, which I will do. But my involvement with Lorain County has been extensive for the short period of time that it's been clear to me that this would be part of the district that I would seek to serve. And I do come up, for those of you who don't know, it's about an hour or an hour and 5-minute drive from Summit County. I am a mother to 2 young children, a wife to my wonderful supportive husband who's also here. And they've been very kind and understanding about my need to really wrap my head around what it means to live in Lorain County or Wayne County or Medina County, because I know what it's like to live in Summit County, but that doesn't mean that that's what it's like to live in the other counties. So I've been present and involved with your community very frequently since that time, and look forward to doing it from here out.
Okay, and in your last 20 seconds or so, is there anything else you'd like to let the membership know?
I would just encourage you to learn as much as you can about me and the other candidates. Most of us, I would probably say, have websites, and I would just encourage you to take a look at all of the information about my background and my history and my community service.
Thank you very much. All right, last but not least, we are moving to the candidates running for the 9th District Court of Appeals, seat currently held by the Honorable Tom Teodosio. The Republican candidate, the Republican candidate, Judge Jill Flagg Lanzinger. Thank you for coming to the podium. When you're ready, you have a minute and a half to give your qualifications, and then we'll move into questions.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me today. My name is Judge Jill Flagg Lanzinger. I am currently the Barberton Municipal Court Judge. That's in Southwest Summit County. I've been at the Barberton Municipal Court for about 4.5 years. I also served on the Summit County Common Pleas Court for a little over 2 years. At the Barberton Municipal Court, I found our drug court program in 2015. I currently preside over the mental health court now, which is an honor for me and it very rewarding for me. I know I'm not going to get the question about specialty courts because I'm running for the 9th District now, but I obviously am very in favor of specialty courts and treatment. I have a background in psychology from Heidelberg and also a degree in political science. Before I was judge, I was a private practice attorney for 10 years. I had a mixed practice. I did a lot of civil litigation for kids with that have been abused in facility settings. My claim to fame is winning a Supreme Court case, Ohio Supreme Court case, regarding the statute of limitations for sexually abused children in facility settings. Also, I was a part-time magistrate at Akron Municipal Court. I am married with 3 kids. I have a daughter who's 18, and she is starting college next year at University of Central Florida and doing the legal studies program, so she is going to get an accelerated law degree. I have a 15-year-old son who is autistic, and we're very involved in that, in the world of special needs and disabilities in my family, and also I have an 8-year-old son.
Well, we cannot hear a little bit about the 8-year-old before we go into the
Oh, he's cute as a button, and he's the baby, for sure, right? He's the only one that's not a teenager.
Okay, thank you. Why do you want to be a Court of Appeals judge, 9th District Court of Appeals judge?
Well, I love being a trial judge. It's been great. I've been a trial lawyer prior to being a trial judge. But I do have a part of me, I was on law review in law school. I have a part of me that does want to research and write and make those type of decisions. So I would like to do the 9th District Court of Appeals for that reason. I do like the legal puzzles and the decisions made on a legal basis and the research and writing. And I still do get to affect people in a positive way. So.
Okay, thank you. You touched on your experience and you did speak about being a trial lawyer. Can you tell us your full extent of your civil litigation experience and to include domestic relations and or family law?
I think that's an interesting question because I don't know how you say your full extent, in 17 years. It's been about 17 years for me. Obviously, I'm a trial judge, so I have a civil docket. I've presided over multiple medical malpractice cases. I presided over a workers' comp case. I presided over a car accident case, a civil at the common pleas level. I preside over multiple, criminal trials regularly, including at the common pleas court where I presided over murder trials and high-level felonies. But when I was in private practice, obviously the case that went to the Supreme Court was a civil case. That was civil litigation. I've had wrongful death cases. I have a wrongful death case a claim to fame wrongful death case in Cleveland where there was a child that was asphyxiated, and that case led to the law being changed about prone position restraint. I practiced in juvenile court. I took juvenile appointments. I was a guardian ad litem in juvenile court as well. I tried a federal civil rights case in Illinois. I've been the trial attorney on another civil trial in Medina County. So So I really, the full extent is hard because
It's a hard question.
I have to go through the docket of all my cases, and there'd be a lot.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for a thorough answer, even
Yeah.
though it's a tough question. As you were preparing and making the decision to run it for the 9th District Court of Appeals, what was the biggest issue that you would say the court is facing this time? And then what steps or what would you put in place to change that?
I don't know if you're going to ask me this question next, but they do tie into each other, and that is we need to pay the appointed attorneys more money for criminal appeals. I myself took criminal appeals as a younger lawyer, and I would get a murder appeal and have to read through all the transcripts for hours and hours of a week-long trial, find all the issues, research those issues, and my cap was $1,000. So we definitely need to figure out how to pay those lawyers who take those very important cases more and get more people on the list. I do think, if you look at my docket over the years as a judge, I am a big believer that your docket needs to be managed. Right now I have 3 delinquent cases on my docket. If you look at my docket over the years, I'm a person who is staring at my delinquent cases and making sure we're moving things along. I think that's the same with the Court of Appeals decisions, that we shouldn't be waiting longer than, if you want me to put it up, run it 6 months for any appeal. I myself have waited 1 year for one, and I think that's too long.
Okay, thank you. In regard to the issue, and then and that being the court appointed, getting attorneys to take them and pay them.
Sure.
Do you have any proposals or plan that you would like to see put in place to alleviate that?
So we've recently, in Summit County, increased trial lawyers' pay. Their hourly rate went up, their caps went way up. I think we need to think about maybe having an unlimited cap on the appeals, because you can have an appeal where it's a appeal on a plea, and you can have appeal where it's a murder trial or a big, some case that lasted 2 weeks, and they shouldn't have the same caps. So it should be a larger cap on bigger cases.
All right, thank you very much for that answer. You answered a lot in the same, in one question as well. I just want to make sure that I'm not doubling up your questions. Yes, very. Let's go to the Lorain County Bar Association, since we've asked everybody that's not currently on the bench. Why, I believe I did, why, or what has your involvement been with the Lorain County Bar Association?
I am not a member of the Lorain Bar Association, Lorain County Bar Association. I hope to be a member when I win the election. I hope to be a member of the Lorain Bar Association. I will be a member. Right now I am an Akron Bar Association member. That's where my court is located. That's where I practice law. But I do hope to be more involved in Lorain. And I will be here for the next 7 months.
So I'm going to just take from that question and
Sure.
just expand it a little bit. Has there been any involvement in Lorain County prior to this?
Actually, I don't think I've even had a case in Lorain County in terms of trial work or appellate work. I've practiced for the 10th district, the 11th district, the 12th district, the 10th, 12th, 10th, and the Supreme Court, but I don't think I've ever, other than my 9th District Court of Appeals cases, I have not been in Lorain.
Okay, thank
So.
you. Can you tell us your position on diversity in the judicial system, particularly as it relates to the 9th District, or to the Court of Appeals? Not 9th District, but to the Court
Sure.
of Appeals.
I believe I have a diverse family. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll see that. And I also believe we should be intentional about diversity. And one of the big places that we can be intentional about diversity is in hiring, because that's what judges do. Judges have a lot of people they hire, whether it's probation department people, whether it's bailiffs. I think we need to be intentional as judges with hiring. We should also be intentional with helping candidates who are diverse as well. And I've done that in my time as judge.
Okay, I think you have answered every question that was put forth for us. Let me just double check. Oh, no, we missed one here. You've touched a lot on this, but I'm going to give you some time to expand, or some. You've touched somewhat on it. What do you think could be done to run the court more efficiently if there's an efficiency issue, in your opinion?
to be repetitive of the other candidates, but I think they're right about that we need to get more people to know what the court does and be more involved in the community as judges to do that. That's really it. I have not gone through everyone's docket on the 9th District and said, oh, this judge is delinquent on his cases. So it's hard for me to say there's an efficiency problem. I just know what I have in my own experience and I know how I am as a judge in terms of efficiency.
Okay, thank you. And we still have time, correct? Okay. What are your views on oral arguments versus by video versus in person? And would you keep them in?
Right now, in my court, we're hybrid, and I love hybrid because I think in the trial level we can do many things by Zoom. Obviously, if we have a proceeding where we're calling witnesses, that's difficult. But at the Court of Appeals, I think that we aren't calling witnesses, we're having oral arguments on briefs, and that we can keep a Zoom platform. I do think, however, that if the parties do want to be in person, that we should accommodate that as well. So I like the technology. I think it, takes away our carbon footprint. It helps with people who have transportation issues. It helps attorneys who are running around in multiple districts. So I love it that we've moved in that direction.
Thank you. And is there anything, you've been very precise and concise as they teach us when we go in front of the Court of Appeals. Anything further you want the membership or public that's here to know before they go out and cast their vote?
I know you don't know me much in Lorain, but if you do some research, you'll see that I'm very involved in the community in Summit County. My son is autistic, and my husband and I are very involved in the special needs community. I sit on the board of 2 nonprofit organizations, the Portage Lakes Advisory Council, the Polar Bear Club. We raise money for the food bank. The Portage Lakes Advisory Council is an environmental group. So please consider voting for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Follow me on Facebook.
All right, and the candidate for the 9th District Court of Appeals, currently being held by the Honorable Thomas Teodosio, is the Democrat candidate, Judge Thomas Teodosio. So when you're ready,
thank you. Amy, thank you to the Bar Association, Judy, for having us tonight. Thank you for staying, since I'm the last person to speak. My name is Judge Tom Teodosio. I'm currently the presiding judge of the 9th District Court of Appeals. I've also served as the administrative judge of that court. I'm serving in my 6th year as an appellate court judge. Over that time, I've participated in over 1,300 decisions that have come out of our court. I've authored over 500 decisions that have come out of our court. I'm honored to say that the Chief Justice asked me to sit by assignment on the Ohio Supreme Court when Justice Pat Fisher was unable to serve due to a conflict. She has also assigned me to sit on other districts when judges in the various other districts have been unable to sit. I've sat on with the 5th District, the 6th District, the 7th District, the 8th District, and the 11th District. There's only 12 districts in the state, so I've sat literally on half of the districts, appellate districts in the state. Thank you to the Lorain Bar membership. You rated me highly recommended for re-election. You also scored me the highest of all the judges, so I want to thank you for that rating. Prior to being elected to the...
Sorry, I didn't give you the 30 seconds. I apologize.
Am I question time?
You can finish your thought, and then I'll move along.
Just quickly, prior to my election to the 9th District Court of Appeals, I served for 10 years on the Summit County Trial Court. So I had everything from death penalty cases where I had to unfortunately impose that penalty to medical malpractice. I also presided over the Summit County Drug Court, which was during the height of the epidemic. That was in addition to my civil docket and my criminal docket. I think I had the biggest, it wouldn't surprise me if I had the biggest drug court docket in the state, because when I left, they literally split that between 2 judges. Prior to that, I have legislative experience as well. I served on Summit County Council. Summit County at the time was the only county in the state that had a charter form of government, meaning we could legislate as long as it wasn't in conflict with the state legislature. And I sponsored legislation, for instance, in Summit County to have the quality of gas in our county tested. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but Ohio was one of only 3 states that did not test the quality of gasoline to the consumers. And we were able to do that only in Summit County because of that form of government. That's an important role because we deal with statutes and legislation all the time. Can I talk about my 25 years as a private attorney, or are you going to ask me?
We'll conclude with that. We're going to move on to some questions because I'm going to ask you one, and you're going to knock out about 5 of them, so you'll have time to conclude. But I'm going to switch up the order here. Can you talk about your involvement with the Lorain County Bar Association?
Absolutely. Yes, I've been honored to present at a number of seminars multiple times during the year. I've also been part of panels whenever Jeannie's asked for me to come up and either teach or present. I've been glad to do that, and I will continue to do that. I've also been involved socially, going to a number of the Bar Association's social events. I've been up to Lorain County so much, a lot of people think I actually live in this county. So I love Lorain County, and I hope to continue to serve you.
Thank you. Since you were going to speak about your time as a trial lawyer, let's talk about your extent of your experience as a trial lawyer, civil litigation, and or family law.
Sure, I had, well, first of all, I was in private practice for 25 years, meaning that I had to make payroll, I had to run an office, I was a partner in my own office. I had civil and criminal experience in not only common pleas court, but also in federal court. My practice involved trial work. I was part of the Summit County Trial Lawyers Association. I did have trials in domestic relations court, and probate court, and juvenile court. I even had death penalty cases. I had a number of cases where I had to defend defendants on death penalty cases. And as I said, I've tried cases in federal and state court.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that broad experience serves me well on the common pleas court, as well as the appellate court. Common pleas court, the attorneys loved having a judge who actually practiced law. And that translates as well, equally well, to the Court of Appeals, that experience.
Thank you. Before we get into the issues in regards to the 9th District Court of Appeals that you can see are currently facing them, let's talk about your views of diversity in the 9th District Court of Appeals and what you can do to address that moving forward.
All right. Diversity is a very important issue for me. I'm a life member of the NAACP. We have one African-American employee, but we don't have that many employees at the Court of Appeals. I think we should strive to increase that number. When I was on the common pleas bench, I had the only African-American bailiff at the time. So I believe in diversity, and I think that's important for a court.
Okay, thank you very much. So now the big question that the one question that everybody's taken has basically had the same opinion on, that the biggest issue right now that they see in the 9th District Court of Appeals, it has to do a lot with court appointments and moving things along. What do you see as being the biggest issue, and what can be done to address it?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily court appointments, because you have to remember, on criminal cases, it's the trial courts that make the appointments to whoever's going to handle the appeal. We very rarely have an opportunity to appoint counsel. So I don't think that's as, granted, we need more people doing that work because it's important work, but the people who do appear before us do an excellent job. So it's not like people aren't getting represented well. The more, obviously it's better if we could get more, but that's not a big issue for me. The big issue for me is getting back to live in-person arguments. That's something that I really hope we do sooner as opposed to later. Zoom is fine, but there's always that problem with a technical issue that could pop up. And the work of an appellate judge, while we don't have witnesses, that interaction with the attorney arguing the case, to me, is important. After we're done hearing the arguments, we conference in the same room. It's absolutely better when you're conferencing in person than on a phone or on a Zoom. So to me, that's the biggest issue. Let's get back to normal as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you very much. As you're already on the bench there in the Court of Appeals, do you see any efficiency issues? And if so, what can be done to address them?
I really think we run an efficient court. One of the things that we've done recently is to add a mediation department. Now, I thought 10 years on the Common Pleas Court bench, mediation's not going to be that successful in the Court of Appeals because one side has won, one side has lost. I've been proven wrong. We have an excellent mediation department that is very successful, and that is making us more efficient. The other thing I would say on timelines, to say there's a 6-month deadline or an 8-month deadline does not do justice to the cases that we hear. Remember, the Court of Appeals is one step below the Ohio Supreme Court. Our decisions are of utmost importance to everybody who lives in that 4-county area. All the courts are going to follow that decision. And it takes an immense amount of work to read a record, to have 3 judges review that opinion and have input into the opinion. A lot of times we'll reconference on a case because it's a very difficult issue. And you don't want to rush those decisions. I wholeheartedly agree with Judge Carr's analysis and answer on that question. It's important that we get it right. And if it takes longer than 6 months, so be it. The important thing is you get it right.
Thank you very much. You have answered all the questions that were posed to us by the members. What other qualifications would you like the members to know, or what about you before they cast their vote?
My wife, I should say, is the juvenile court judge in Summit County. That's why when some of the other speakers mentioned Judge Teodosio in the juvenile division, she will be the longest serving juvenile court judge in the history of Summit County by the end of her term. So very proud of that fact. I have a son who's a partner in the law firm of Rouse McDowell. We had a daughter who passed away at the age of 22. In addition, I've received a number of awards that I'd like to talk to you about because I think they tell you what other people have thought of me. A couple things. First of all, I've never been appointed to a judicial position or a legislative position. Every time I've won, it's been because the citizens of that county or those counties thought that I was qualified. Every time I've run, I've received the very highest recommendation by the local bar associations. I last year received what I think is one of the highest awards you can receive as an attorney or judge, and that's the St. Thomas More Award by the Catholic Diocese, and that's for personal integrity and professional excellence. And those are the qualities you want in a judge. I hope to continue to serve you, and check out my website for some wonderful endorsements that I've received out of your county and the other counties. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you very much, Judge Teodosio, and I'm very sorry for your family's loss. That concludes the question and answer session. I want to give a very, very big thank you to the candidates for being here today, providing very good answers, very in-depth answers, and providing our members with much more information than they had before they came in, so they can make an informed decision when they're at the voting booth. So let's give them a round of applause, everybody. Before we leave, I just want to give Elyria Catholic and overall a big thank you for allowing us to use your facilities. It's beautiful in here and it worked very well. So thank you. Last but not least, we cannot leave without saying thank you to Jeannie from the Lorain County Bar Association. She runs the ship. She makes this happen, so thank you. I just want to remind everybody the primary election day is Tuesday, May 3rd, so get out there and vote, and everybody have a good night. Thank you.